Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, a show for people who are obsessed with all things marketing. I'm your host, Veronica, Romney, certified master marketer, international keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, and the author of a new book called Identity Marketing. Each week, I interview rainmakers from brands big and small to pull back the curtain on what's actually working in marketing today. We dig into real-life wins and losses and their very real consequences, and get into spicy discussions of marketing controversies and opposing philosophies. This is the real marketing thought leadership you've been looking for in your ears on demand. This is the Rainmaker Podcast. Listen, guys, I'm known sometimes for my feistiness or my spiciness being 100% Cuban Latina. However, my next guest, Bill Neff from YETI, is not Latino. But man, his spice level on this podcast, more than spice, his enthusiasm, his he was so just unapologetically enthusiastic about what he was sharing in regards to what it's like to work for a founder-led organization. And he's done it multiple times. What's it like to work with these visionary personalities that's intoxicating? What it's like to be the head of marketing for a brand like YETI. I mean, they're having rocket ship success in their first decade of existence. They're going to be one of those legacy brands, just like the Coca-Colas of the world. And he's there. He's on the front lines in that first 10 years of their history. He talks deeply about the relationship they have with community, unlike what I've heard other people describe their relationships with communities. He's a huge believer in not hijacking customer stories and the way that he articulated when to elevate a story versus just, being gross about it. I thought that was such a good part in the show. This is an episode, forewarning, that you're going to want to have a notebook out for him. He really does drop wisdom on leadership, community, marketing. I mean, lots of facets that I think would be so valuable for you, the listener. So please welcome my guest, Bill Neff from YETI. Oh, Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Veronica.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm honored. I'm delighted. I'm so excited to reconnect and to have your presence on this podcast, because when I had a chance to listen to you, you say some controversial things in the regards that you do not prescribe to everybody else's marketing mentality around community and how you've basically taken YETI to where it is today. So I'm really excited to kind of just expose your brain. That's that weird. Okay.
There's not a lot of, so there's philosophies in there,
Yes.
but there's not a lot of original material. All the things that I talk about are things that I learned, and they're things that I learned from people or brands that I've watched. So we'll get into it. And if you're like, well, where'd you learn that? I can tell you exactly where. So,
well, actually, can we start with that? Because this is a question I like to ask. Just me too. It's always fun to see where marketers derive inspiration from. Some are very strong opinion, they don't look external. They don't look to the left or the right of their competitors, because then it would limit their creativity. Some people are like, absolutely not. I'm stalking them. I have a pulse. I have specific email subscriptions so I'm on everything. How much do you engage with the world around you versus staying inside of YETI's world specifically?
Is this specific to marketing philosophies or just in general?
Well, both,
marketing philosophies,
but marketing specifically.
So I would say this. I have brand friends that I talk to. I have brand friends that I stalk that don't know I'm kind of watching. I have, but one of my mantras, if you were to ask our community marketing lead, what's the number one rule in marketing, he would say, show up. So for me, showing up in the places to the consumers that you are ultimately trying to be part of, it's such a huge thing. So I can get kind of pulled into the box here because of the position that I happen to be in, but this isn't where I came from, and I get antsy in the box. So I need to get out and I need to go. I went hunting with some friends. We went to a Delta waterfowl event in December, had some brand friends down there, and I needed to reconnect with this community. At this Delta waterfowl banquet, there was, I don't know, probably 700 people there in the hunting space in this little tiny town in Missouri, but it was I wanted to be there. I have to see those things. So for me, and it isn't about going to the ritzy stuff because you get invited to the national championship game. I don't honestly I don't ever really want to do those things. Like I want to do the things we have there's 3 shows happening right now in Las Vegas that we're a part of. One is the licensing show. So we do a lot in the team licensing space. I would love to be there and just get an idea of these licensors and like these other brands there and like trying to feel kind of what people are doing there.
Mm-hmm.
SHOT Show, which is a huge military, law enforcement hunting show in Vegas. And then we're also at World of Concrete. So there's 3 shows happening in Vegas that our team's about to go out to. And this World of Concrete, we've never gone before. Construction, blue collar, a lot of the things we do in cargo, a lot of the drinkware things we do, even our coolers and our smaller format coolers, we don't know our place there. So it's like an
Sure.
opportunity to learn. And so for me, like I get so much excitement from being in places with people and showing up and seeing it firsthand. So I don't think you can do it any other way, at
Mm-hmm.
least in my personal opinion, because then you're just like sitting in here fabricating ideas on your own and like you don't even know.
Yeah.
And we'll get into founder-led businesses and all that kind of stuff, but like, and why I'm such a proponent of them. But like founders for me, before they were founders, they were like they were in the community they were in, whether it was Phil Knight and running or Kevin Plank and football, or whether it was Roy and Ryan and fishing. Like they were in the space, they knew it so well, they knew exactly what was going on. And
Yeah.
so my role as we take on to that type of passion that moves through and that energy that moves through to a consumer base is just trying to keep that alive. And so I believe showing up is the number one thing. So I get a lot of inspiration. That's a lot. This we're going to have 2 questions because I'll talk around these things like crazy because I do get really fired up about them. But I mean, showing up externally for me, yeah, it's brand stuff is really fun to be like, hey, do you see them doing that? That's cool. But like, really, what is our consumer doing and what are they gravitating to and why? And that's what I really want to know. And I don't think you can know without showing up. And it's why our community team is so big and all that stuff.
This
So,
is fascinating to me for many reasons because I felt like so I haven't been in corporate since like 2017 and then I like took off on my little entrepreneurial journey. But I felt like in the corporate experience that I had, it did feel like we were so removed from the end user. We were so removed from the person we were seeking to serve. And then when I got into entrepreneurship, like I had no choice. Like you were like confronted with like yourself in the mirror, but then also the level of proximity to the person you're trying to take care of, whether it's a service, an offer, a product, a good, is very, I mean, the intimacy is really there. And
yeah,
so it's really actually quite nice to hear you in the position that you hold with the brand that you oversee tell me that your preference is still proximity and intimacy with those that you're seeking to serve through your goods. Because
yeah,
I didn't have that experience in my corporate days, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. And so you wanting to immerse yourself in the people. This came up when I saw your panel because the way you describe your communities, it's not one, you didn't describe it like it was one collective community. You actually differentiating like there's the fishing community, there's the hunting community, there's now this concrete community. And the way you described it, it was like a personification of a romantic relationship. Like some of us, me, Yeti, and some of these communities, like we're in it, like we've been married 10 years. Some of them were just
hmm
courtship and dating. Talk to me about how you see your relationship with these end users in all of the different lanes that
yeah.
you serve.
So there's 2 approaches that we take. One, we generally get invited to the space. I really do think of the persona of the brand like human nature. And I hear people say, oh yeah, just be human or human. Like I, I take that incredibly serious, like of how would humans react. And so we generally aren't at the bar. Like we don't walk into the bar and just start firing off like, hey, let's go meet this. Like we kind of sit in our corner. We have a group of friends. Generally speaking, in those situations of human networks, you might get introduced to someone else. And
Mm.
when you get introduced to someone else, you're not like instantly going to marry the person or instantly going to be best friends or go on the vacation together. It's like
Yeah,
you get to know them, and now you have this new friend, and maybe over the course of you may show up another time, or you do something else, and
exactly.
then you're kind of in this group of friends together. So that real human if I could go back, I would 100%. I was a psychology major my freshman year, and I turned to a marketing major my sophomore year. If I would go back in the positions and the brands that I've been in, I would 100%, or I had to get my master's, I'd go back to behavioral science.
Yep.
Because it's all that. It's all 100%. Like, what are humans doing and why are they reacting? Why do things go crazy? Why don't they go crazy? We're all part of this behavioral thing. So I really do think of what we try and do here and why we do it in a really human type way. So the communities come on. Fish was the first community, and it was
Right.
because we were founder led. But we were founder led, just like you're founder led right now. And that's why I gravitate to founder led organizations, is because they do it as a human. Like corporations are answering to something else. They aren't
Right.
answering to their community. And granted, we're a public company and we do answer to Wall Street and all those things. But because we're so close to Roy and Ryan, and Matt, our CEO, who's been here for 10 years, is so close to them and believes in the way that we're building this brand. Like, yeah, Roy's around here and comes around, but Matt is Roy. Like, Matt is a founder. Like, he has the founder mentality with a business lens. So at no point did he say shut down anything. We just kept moving. And I think the greatest brands keep that spirit. I think that's why Nike's where they are right now, is because Phil Knight was there forever. And he was making decisions. One of his great quotes, and I know I'll get it wrong, was like, I know Wall Street measures us on the amount of shoes we sell, but I measure us on the amount of shoes that are on the podium in the New York City Marathon. Like, that's his lens, was that, not Wall Street. He knows he has to answer to Wall Street, but like, that's not where the success is, or it's not where it's going. It's our shoes on the podium in the New York Marathon. And so those are the kind of things. And so when we build communities, it really is like Fish started. Fish was a quick jump to hunt because most of those people were sportsmen bringing their coolers to hunt. But the adjacency to the third community that came on for us, and why we built our 110 and why we built some of the products we make, is the whitewater community. And it's the perfect example of Roy and Ryan they aren't river rats. They didn't grow up on whitewater vacations or anything like that. They just were listening, and they listened to these guides down on extended day trips down the canyon in the Southwest United States. And they needed coolers. They needed this tool for extended days. And so they started using it. They found out about that. They didn't say, hey, you know who could really use this is those river guides, and let's go introduce it to them. It was it gravitated to that thing. And so that's how all of these communities have come up. I mean, it really is. It's like we go and we search and we listen, and if our product can be relevant, I don't care about I don't care about the size of the consumer on the other side. I don't care about if we went after that one, we could be huge. It's like, is our product relevant to the tools they need to do what they do in their pursuit? And some of them are really relevant. Like, I mean, fishing was one where they used it as a casting platform. I mean, our whole cooler was built on the ability to stand on it, not ice or not warm. So like, that was a tool they were using on a boat that they needed. Like, and then the backcountry ski community, they don't use it when they're going up and down the mountains, but it's part of their toolkit in their vans and in those places that they go out there. So when they're back, they have food, and so it's part of their setup. And if we can be relevant as part of their setup, you can be a community for us. And that's why culinaries come on, and that's why some of these other communities that may not fit in the perfect outdoor retailer box is like, and we're still seeing them expand. And it's like, we're going to go just like you would in a bar in that social setting. You're going to find out, how can we be better friends? What can we do? And
Totally.
and before you know it, you're sponsoring something big for them, and you're supporting them.
This came up too for me because, again, the way that you describe your relationship with your communities is very akin to like a romantic relationship where there's like courtship. And so I was thinking about that because I talk about the love languages in one of my keynotes that I do, because it recently got 2 new ones to the original 5, and people like lost their minds. And so like how you love your partner, words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, physical touch. But if YETI was a boy that I was courting, you love on your communities, you date them, you invest in their interests, which I thought was really interesting. Like it's more than just sponsorships because correct me if I'm wrong, whether it's a small publication, a big publication, like if the community is deeply devout or cares about this local newspaper or this local event or this thing, YETI's there helping that cause too. How did that strategy, because it's really courtship, like you're investing in their interest before you even realize, because you're just learning about this person. Talk to me about that strategy, where that came from.
I think it was just in the beginning. I think it was the way it was. I think when we started and you have these great publications in the fishing space, like the Drake, and it's a small fishing magazine, but it's really, to the diehard anglers, like it's really important to them. And so Tom Bai and the group there, like we want to support them. And we want to support that because if it goes away, the community suffers, and so they rely on, and this is true of a lot of brands that do this, but like for us, so it's easy when you just have fishing or hunting and you're just kind of sitting in that space. It's like, hey, how do we, and now there's podcasts and all such other mediums that are like, what's important to those places? And so we're learning and we continue to evolve and make sure we don't have endless amounts of money, but if we can support it, we will. And, because it's important to the community, and that really is it. And whether it's events, whether it's we want to, because we're part of the community, because it's important to us. That's it. It's like we're part of that. So
you're not speaking to someone, you're immersed. Like it's a social anthropologist that like becomes one of the tribes that they went to go study. Like that's the best part. That's how, at least that's the analogy that I can picture, is that you went to go study them and then you became one of them and never wanted to leave.
I mean, it's exactly right. I mean, it's like a neighborhood and we moved in and when something happens, we want to be there for our neighbors. So,
and this I think is reflective in the way that you've structured your marketing department, because you said this, you're like, we have only 5 people on brand, but we have 17 plus on community. Because when you, at this point, I mean, you have so many products and there's so many communities that you've now neighborhoods that you've moved into. And like, how do you one thing is to court somebody and like, ask you to get married. The other thing is to keep the romance alive 15 years later. So like, how do you, is that because the way that you structure your team is that you can keep that courtship going? You can keep that, relationship hot. Like, talk to me about your team structure.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's no different than a lot of people's, but we have a brand team. And honestly, it's really set up. I mean, I was hired in 2015 to as a director of community marketing. So it was a group that and they wanted, the community marketing team here they wanted someone who had experience at like an athletic, a typical sports marketing role at one of the brands like Nike or Under Armour or Audi or Puma or one of those that like found authenticity of their product on athletes. Because there's tons of sports marketing like groups that, and I had one of my best friends who I actually went and did one of my jobs with 901 Tequila with, was Kevin Reuter, and he was in charge of sports marketing for Anheuser-Busch. And that's a totally different mentality of like, you want beer rights, you want to pour, but like really it's just media buys in stadiums and you're just like this affiliation. For us, it was, they didn't want that because we do some of that right now, but that's actually not in our community group necessarily. It's in our partnership group. Our community group is product relevance with the pursuit or the person doing the pursuit. And and so for us it was that was the mentality that they wanted, was like, and so we set it up that way. And when I was at Under Armour, we had our college team, we had our pro team, we had, and as they started to grow, and I left in 2009, so it was, but they have their football one and their baseball one and they start to silo these out because of it. And it's the same way with Nike, and they have their basketball teams and football teams and all those people that do those things. That's the model. And so as we continue to build out communities, the first thing we do is, and there's a few things we're working on right now that I'm like, Brand, don't even worry about it. Don't even touch it. Like, let the community do their work first, which is get into we talk about getting into the tunnels. It's like, get into the tunnels, find out where we're relevant, get underground, start pushing some energy. Like, let's see if it can work. The biggest mistake brands make is like, brand gets in front of it, starts doing these big campaigns on it, and it's not even real. It's not a real thing. And so that's where it's like community goes first, and they build those roots, they build that depth of trueness or realness within those spaces. Then brand comes in and tells story, and our content team comes in and we tell stories of those people. And if we can tell stories of those people, we assume and we believe, based on our human network and human nature philosophy, that they're going to tell stories of us. And that's really all it is. And I do think, and again, and if you ask me where I learned it, it's Nike. It's like, they do it perfectly. They tell stories of their people. They very rarely tell stories of their shoes. They tell stories of their people. And I just 100% believe in that philosophy. And if you tell stories of them, they'll tell stories of you. And that's how we as humans talk. Like, when I get off this call today, I'm probably going to go talk to people, be like, Veronica, I was on a podcast with Veronica. She's got a new book coming out. She's great. Like, you should listen to the podcast. Like, all that. It's just human nature for us to do that. And so that's where I think that stimulation of energy for brands, that I think it's different for, I think Dove does an amazing job of doing it. Like, for a commodity brand like soap, they do an amazing job of doing that. But there are, like, Irish Spring. They're just a soap. Like, I buy it sometimes. I don't know why I buy it. It's like green. It has a nice little logo. I don't know why I buy it. Maybe it's the Irish thing. I'm not even Irish, but maybe it makes me, I don't know. But I buy it. So their marketers have to think of a different thing. Like that, like, these rules don't necessarily apply.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different challenge. And that's corporate. That's just different. So it isn't that it's right or wrong or anything's right or wrong. It's just philosophies and based on the brands that you're trying to steward. And for us at YETI, it really comes back down to our people, telling stories of our people, and letting our people tell stories of us.
Okay, you're going to like this. We're going to be besties right here, right now. Watch. So, chapter 9 in my book, Transforming Intangibles into Ridiculously Profitable Tangibles, featuring Nike and Red Ants pants. And in the movie Air, because I'm not going to deliver this the way that Matt Damon does, because Matt Damon is Matt Damon. But at the end of the movie, where he's like pitching the Jordan family to like pick Nike over Adidas and Converse, he has this line. I melted because, of course, I'm seeing the world in identity marketing. And it says, a shoe is just a shoe until somebody steps into it. Then it has meaning. The rest of us just want a chance to touch that greatness. We need you in these shoes, not so you have meaning in your life, but so that we have meaning in ours.
There it is. Yeah.
And I was like,
That's it.
And you're right. Nike, and I have Nike actually both in my marketing chapters, but I end the book with some identity-based leadership, stories and lessons that I've learned. And I think Nike is a great example of leveraging identity, both in its marketing efforts, but also internally. The most diehard Nike team members will tattoo the swoosh on their bodies, and they affectionately call themselves Eakins, which is Nike spelled backwards. I mean, talk about like entrenching yourself, associating your self-concept, your self-label so deeply with brand and values of brand. It's one of my favorite examples. Now, you are protective over your people, because I remember on the panel that you sat on, the guy that was asking you the questions, your colleagues on the panel, they were like, we can't get enough of UGC. And then you very famously, at least famous to me on stage, you're like, I don't hijack. We don't like to hijack our people's stuff. And I was like, So talk to me about the desire to not ever exploit, hijack your community's stories, because I know it's like, I just had Levi's on the podcast, and they literally have a historian on their marketing department, and her job is to harvest these incredible stories from 175 years of history to then leverage for marketing purposes. So like, how do you do that ethically? And what's your strong opinion on it?
So if Levi's is doing that, to then go, let's say there's a fourth generation, whatever, that great grandfather, grandmother wore their Levi's on the farm, whatever, and they want to tell that story. Fine, I think that's amazing. So I want to hear that story. When I think of UGC, and listen, there is no bigger fan of UGC, and we're very lucky that YETI gets a lot of UGC love out there.
Organically,
we get a lot of it. Like there's a lot of people who post Nike and this and that. I mean, post YETI and Nike does too. But for us, we get a lot of UGC. And so because we get all this UGC, we're always like, what should we do with it? What should we do with it? What should we do with it? And I just got down to the point where I'm like, it's their story. And so, here's my analogy, and I've been thinking about how I say this without people like, what is he talking about? Okay, so I go back to my human nature type thing, and let's say you and I are sitting at a bar, and we're talking about Ryan and how great the gathering is, and how amazing it is, and Ryan's such a great guy. You hear the speech he gave, and blah blah blah. And Ryan overhears us saying it because he's over at the other side of the thing. And then he comes over to us and lifts me up in the air and says, hey, everybody, listen to Bill and Veronica talk about me. Listen to all of them talk about me. Look how great I am because they're all talking about me. Like everybody be like, what are you, like, Ryan, why are you being ridiculous? Yeah, that's how I think of UGC. And so if you want to stimulate it and just let it go, like, I think that's perfect. But but the minute you're like, hey, that's a really good story, we're going to repurpose it and on our side and tell everybody how great you think we are. What is that? That is so like gross, like in my soul of just like, behavioral science. Like it is a weird, egotistical, narcissistic kind of trait that you would want to do. So again, I don't want to say other brands are narcissists and all that kind of stuff, but I believe from human nature perspective, that's what it is. And so we've tried it, and I don't want to say we have literally tried it, and it never comes off, and the comments are sort of mixed and all this stuff, and they're like, oh, but it was engagement, it was great. It's like, I don't know. I'd rather let that be, let their stories be, even if I know they're talking about me. It's like, that's nice, and let's stay humble and blah blah blah. But let it be let it be what it is, and then let's go do other ways of telling stories about people, and let's just hope this thing continues to kind of revolve. So,
that was like first of all, the visual of Ryan lifting you. I was like, what is happening right now? That was great. People won't know like you're the stature differences, but it was a good one. I was like, okay, sure, we'll go with that one. Okay, this is really interesting to me because I didn't choose this plan for myself. Like when I left corporate and went out on my own little, journey of life, to have now worked with some very big personalities, the Tony Robbins type of characters of the world.
Yep.
But I have. Again, it wasn't something that I necessarily sought out, but Pocahontas, the river led me here. Here we are, right? And you are also extremely founder-oriented, but you bring up narcissism. This is why this is the connection here for me. So it's funny, in entrepreneurship, I pursued a certification in internal family systems therapy, not because I desire to be a therapist, but just the study of how people come with all of their parts and come with their stories. It's just, again, the behavior of humans and why they behave the way they do and what part of them is driving that behavior, that response. So I get that. But when you work with these visionary characters, whether they are true clinical narcissists, which is its own breed, if they're not that, minimum, we have narcissistic traits or attributes, because you have to be so unapologetic in your belief of self. Like you have to see Disney World in the middle of Florida in a swamp before you break ground, right? Like, so these visionaries that make it, truly make it, have to have, I mean, we can say in the vicinity of narcissistic qualities or attributes or traits. You are very founder oriented. So how have you navigated that? Because I'll be honest, I've struggled at times with different characters.
so here's what I would say. I'm generally, so I've worked for, yeah, I guess most of the work I've done with have been founders, but like the three big ones for me was Kevin Plank, and I didn't work for him. I worked on him. I was 4 layers below him, but we got to interact with Kevin a
Sure.
lot because I was in college sports and he loved college sports, so I traveled with him quite a bit. Um, Jonathan Hart, who founded Sitka Gear, which is an amazing hunting brand, and I've learned so much from him. And then Roy and Ryan have been they're the founders. Like, I mean, they are as humble as they get, and but those are the three kind of big founders.
Mm-hmm.
While I was at Sitka Gear and Under Armour, the founders were still there. At YETI, Matt Ryanchess, who is the first CEO past the founder, has just kept he just like, he might as well be Roy kind of thing. Like he has a business acumen and like runs just an amazing business, and I've learned so much from him. But really, he has the founder spirit, and he has the founder respect, quite frankly. And so here's and I don't want to say it's a fault of mine, but like I am I like people. So like,
That's good.
yeah. So like, I don't go in, like, generally speaking, whether it's my friends or my work colleagues or whatever, like, generally speaking, I go in very like almost naive to negative parts of their personality.
That's cool.
I just gravitate to the parts that I get really excited about. So when I listen to Kevin Pleck up on a stage, like, talk through what we're doing at Under Armour at the time and going up against Nike and Adi and behemoths, and we're, sub 100 million, and these are billion-dollar companies, like, and I'm like a 27-year-old like kid, like, and he's only 28, like he's not like old at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like ready to go. I literally would jump out of this window right now for the
Yeah.
way that he would fire up his team. He has an innate, unbelievable ability to do that. Jonathan Hart was different, and all of them had the same, like, I can never be a founder because I don't have that audacity to think that I can do it. I don't have that like in me, but I've gravitated to the people
Yeah. It's a moth.
that
Yeah.
do have that I'm just like so enamored. And so all I want to do is make sure that stays alive. And so like my part in this whole thing, and where I think where I think that I can be, is I won't ever let their spirit of what they do die. Their spirit of what they kept, those relationships that got the business going, all those things, I'll never let them die, because they're so important to how this thing and the culture of this thing continues to go. Ryan Wood. So Ryan Wood was Kevin's plank. He was, if there was 3 people at Under Armour that started, it was Kevin, Kip, and Ryan. And there was a couple other ones like Scotty Salkow and Jamie and all these guys. But like Ryan and Kip and Kevin were the 3. Ryan Wood was in charge of sales, and Kip was on operations, and Kevin was the guy. Ryan was like, in my interview to him, he's like, okay, he's like, there aren't really formal interviews when you're that little at a company, but he's like, okay, he's like, I just want you to know that every person that you're going to call on, and we had old Rolodexes at the time, and he pointed to this Rolodex, and he's like, they're in here, like, they are my contacts, and so if you fuck up, I'm going to hear about it.
Yeah.
Right then it was like, okay, like, I'm like, that was my, like, I'm the ghost. I'm the ghost of Ryan. I'm the ghost of, because they're out doing bigger business things now. Like, I'm the ghost of that. So it is something that, even at my position right now, that doesn't allow me to travel as much as I used to, or be doing the things that I really do get inspiration to doing. Like, I still have that mentality. So I push on the teams, like, that's why we show up. That's why we call back. That's why we do the relationship. And so for any of them, it was just like, I'm enamored by the audacity, and then I'm enamored by the momentum and the energy. It's all about the energy that these founder-led brands bring. It's like, It's like, how is this thing happening? And it's not a marketing campaign.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Right.
It isn't because they decided to do a great out-of-home campaign in New York City. Like, that isn't it. And whether it's Lulu or Vuori or any of these brands that do it, Coca-Cola and all those things now, I mean, they're so far removed from I would love to hear the first 10 years of Coca-Cola
Yes.
on wagons and
Yes.
delivering on wagons and this word of mouth and all this stuff going on. Like, I'm living in those worlds of what Coca-Cola was back in the early 1900s or whenever they were founded. And so those are the things that, like, it's not campaign. So you ask about our community team to our brand campaign. I care so much more about, and like, we're going to tell great stories of our people, and we're going to do fun campaigns and all the marketing stuff that everybody gets. And if Ad Week wants to pick it up, I honestly don't care. What I do care about, I care about the campaign and if it resonates with the consumer base, or if it tells the story and does the consumer base proud of the people who are telling the story.
Yes.
But I care about the community because they're the ones that are pushing that energy. They're the ones that are making sure our product is relevant. If our coolers ever become irrelevant to our pursuits, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. So we have to make sure we stay relevant. All this new product has to be relevant. And if we can be relevant to the pursuits, then we have an opportunity and obligation to make sure we are there with them in what we do. And that's why it's 3x the size of our brand team.
Right.
Because our brand team sits back and is like, and yeah, we have to do all the stuff. We have to maintain the website. We got to do our social channels. We got to do all the stuff. But like, for me, like, the real energy is all the stuff that we're sitting here right now doing this. Like, at Jackson Hole right now, there's coolers on the mountain. People are being exposed to the product and use. And that's what's really important. But for that to happen, Jesse Markowitz here, who manages our mountain community, has to make sure those relationships are in place so those things happen. So all those things happen. And again, it's not original to us, but it's a philosophy that we really believe in. And I just believe in, like, that hidden energy. And I talk about it. It's like a fog. It's like a smoke. And I think some of our competitors in the space do an amazing job with it. Like, but for us, it's like, stay rooted, stay grounded, stay really relevant. And
so many. Okay, first of all, you're like the dream hire of hires, because they tell you when you're a business owner, like, nobody will ever care about your business the way that you do. And then you have people like you who take the stewardship of this vision, of this product, of this community so deeply, so profoundly, as if you had birthed it. It's your kid. You're not the babysitter. It's your kid. Like, that's the kind of ownership that is, like, permeating, coming out of what you're sharing on this podcast. I'm just, like, in awe of it, because you're the dream. Have you ever read the book, $1 Trillion Coach by about Bill Campbell?
No,
You're Bill
I'll
Campbell.
Get it, though.
So this book, he was like, if you had a book that was about your life, it'd be like the man behind the legends, because that's what Bill Campbell was. They wrote the book after he died. So we wasn't even alive to see him honored in such manner. It was written about people that were inspired by him, that heard about him. And he was this, like, secret old sports coach, secret coach in Silicon Valley behind Steve Jobs and all of these big CEOs of Google and Apple and all these big companies. And he was like their kind of secret weapon. And he'd walk the neighborhoods with them, and he'd help them when in their times of need. And so they wrote the book about him after he had already passed. It starts at talking about his funeral.
Interesting.
And I thought it was just it's such a touching concept, and I'm like, that's you. that's you. Wow. That's going to be your legacy. You're like, maybe I'm not a founder, but it's seduction. I'm intoxicated. I'm all in when I hear this visionary who's only a year older than me talking about it. It's like Braveheart, like, we're going to go to battle. Like, you're the dream. You're the dream person to accompany someone who's scared shitless. Because let's be honest, when you're a founder and you're a visionary, you know what you're doing. Like, it's so intimidating. You're confronted with things you don't know on a daily basis more than what you do know. And so to have somebody in your vicinity with that sense of, like, I don't know, I just have to give credit. And I know that you don't like the praise, but just deal with it, because words of affirmation are my love language.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But it's true. Like, it is an absolute infatuation with their ability to do it. Yeah.
And that's the gift of the
100%.
visionary. And that's their greatest gift. You know, it has its burdens. It's like the gift of the creative and the curse of the creative. Like there's always the burden of your strengths. But I just find these visionary characters to be, they're intoxicating. You feel it in their aura. You're like, I don't know what's happening, but let's do it.
Yeah. And so all the they're probably some level of narcissism. I mean, I know, but I like just I don't think about that. I don't overlook it. I know I know all of them have their flaws, but
of course.
we all have flaws.
Of course.
We all have flaws. Yeah. So anyway,
human.
I love talking about that.
And your style of marketing is my favorite style of marketing. It's just relationship marketing. Like as deeply, profoundly, authentically, it's just relationship marketing at its core. Okay, so we do this cool thing of the podcast where I've asked you all my questions and you have been a delight. And when I get my guests to get fired up, I'm like the Latin in me, like, let's do this. I get real spicy. So, but I do like where the guests get to ask me the final question of our episode. And so I leave it to you to ask me whatever you want.
What's in your experience, what was the most profound experience that altered either philosophy or the course of your thinking? Could be good, could be bad.
Yeah,
could be...
it's usually Tom Brady said this on stage in the last year, or that success is not your greatest teacher. It's in your failures. Essentially, it's the games you lose, not so much the Super Bowls that you win. And so when I've had like my dark night of the soul, is usually where the course correction occurs the most profoundly or the most memorable. Is because I'm like, and I had the first memory that comes up in the question that you just asked is I was working for a female empowerment company that was uber successful, very viral, big time numbers on social media. And it was very founder led, but the founders, they stood for the empowerment of women publicly, but they were disempowering female staff privately. And I really struggled with that because I was in the position of chief of staff. I was in the position of like all of the team reported through me. I was the hen and these were my chicks. And it was a real dark night of the soul type of like, like values not congruent, integrity breach. And I remember my husband came home from the gym in the morning and I'm sitting on the kitchen table after I dropped off the boys to school and I'm like crying. And I'm not a crier. Like usually when I get upset, I'm like more mad than like emotional response. So I'm like crying and he's like, this is Mayday. Like what's happening? And I'm like, I'm not the false savior that the people are worshiping, but I'm the one making the golden calf for the people to worship.
That's interesting.
And I was like, and again, because when you're in marketing, that's the job, right? Like when you gift wrap the company, you gift wrap the offer, the product, you bring things to the consumer like you want it. Like that's the job. That's the job. Yeah. And so even though I wasn't doing anything malicious or I wasn't taking anyone down publicly, privately, like I wasn't harming relationships personally, but I felt like in the role that I sat in, it was like an accessory to murder in a way. Like it was really weird. And I felt like I was making the golden calf that people were worshiping. And that was the last time I worked for somebody ever.
Wow, that's a course correction for sure. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
and so profound. I love entrepreneurship. I love, not having those dark night of the soul type of moments, but there are moments where, man, I miss, like when you're talking about your team and I miss that too. I miss being in a hive of that type of velocity and activity. And cause I'm such a team centric person too. But yeah, I do think that like as a marketer, ethics, values, because there is a fine line between marketing and manipulation. You can learn everything that you can about therapy and behavioral science, and then you can actually also use that wisdom and knowledge not do well with it and not to
Yeah.
exercise it and yield it appropriately. And so that is something that I think when you've been a marketer for me, almost 20 years, like when you've done this for so long, you always have to be humble and check yourself before you wreck yourself, because
Yeah.
you never want to ever take advantage of someone, because now you have the skill to do so if you really wanted to.
Yeah. for sure.
And so that was just putting it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right
Okay.
on.
All right. Well, listen, my whole family is now all things Yeti. We gave all my family members Yeti for Christmas.
I love it. Nice,
They're like opening, this
Veronica.
is such a
Thank
nice
you.
gift. I'm like, I know. Like, and the little kid, my boys are having the Yeti cups. My husband has all the things. So like we're all in. And I just wanted to say thank you, you personally. Thank you for your time on my little baby show, but also thank you for, more importantly, for your contribution in the world, because what you're doing matters deeply, and these communities are clearly being so well served and taken care of because of your leadership and your influence, and that's something that means something. So just want to say thank you as another marketer in your life.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, it's a big team here that buys into it, and it's not my idea. It's just a philosophy I believe in, and I think some of the greatest brands do it. But I want to thank you for having me on. And anytime you want to talk about this stuff, Veronica,
Deal.
I love talking about it.
Well, next time I get mad about something, like, let's talk about it.
Yeah, or if you see us do something and you're like, "Well, wait a second," call us
Deal.
out. So.
Okay. Well, thanks, Bill, for being on today's Rainmaker podcast.
You bet. Thanks, Veronica.
Thanks for listening today. If you've loved what you heard, make sure to rate the show, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us get the Rainmaker podcast in front of more passionate marketers just like you. And if you're ready to transform your marketing from buy this to be this, pick up my new identity marketing book available on my website at veronicaromney.com. Until next time, my friends, keep making it rain.